I want to use the large chunk of our time tonight talking about the Baltimore Orioles. They're kind of stealing the spotlight in Major League Baseball right now for all the wrong reasons. They recently, of course, what was that? 3 4 days ago now, let go of their manager Brandon Hyde. Brandon Hyde was this season was his sixth season managing that team, and everything just doesn't seem to be clicking for them. There's a lot of question marks about what this means for them going forward, particularly this season and beyond. And I kind of wanted to have kind of a come to Jesus conversation about these Baltimore Orioles. Um, First, I want to talk about Brandon Hyde. I said it a little bit in a video that I posted, one of the shorts that I had posted as an immediate reaction to this. Man, Parker, like managers, it's tough being in baseball and being a manager in these situations because I think if you're any fan who's followed baseball for a hot minute, you know that the manager has, at the end of the day, minimal impact on a great deal of things. I mean, let's just
Like
be honest
10%,
here. They're not
right?
10%. Like you're not going to get 2 or 3 wins or losses either way out of a manager. You're just not going to. It's not a war contributor.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's a shitty situation because there's no team on earth, theoretically, that can go, 15-30 in the first 2 months of the season and no one keeps their job, even if it's not your fault, right? What are they going to do? Keep the manager? So it's just, I feel really bad for Brandon Hyde because he is yet another manager that's scapegoated in a situation that is of anyone on him the least, in my mind.
Yeah, I think nobody's under. I actually have a friend of mine. His name's Chris. He's a really really big Orioles fan, and I hit him up after the Brandon Hyde firing, and I was like, yeah, this will totally fix everything because we all know that it doesn't fix everything. Like the most recent example would be the Phillies. They fired Joe Girardi and then went on to be very successful, but they also had a roster that finally decided to perform to its level after Joe
Yeah.
Girardi was fired. The Orioles are filled with very young players that I don't know that Brandon Hyde can do much other than wait for them to figure their shit out. At the end of the day, what's Brandon Hyde going to do to get Adley Rushman to drag himself out of the slump he's been in for a season and a half now at this point? Jackson Holiday to figure out his swing, Gunnar Henderson to, be the MVP candidate that he was last year. Cedric Mullins is under the contract year. He should have all the motivation he needs. Heston Kjerstad's very young. Ryan Mountcastle's a veteran who should know what he's doing. Like all of this, by the way, did you know Ryan Mountcastle's only 28 years old? I thought he was like 56.
Yeah.
But
Slight
to my
roundup.
so to my point, I just think it's very weird to put all of the blame on the manager, especially because who's the guy who fires the manager? The general manager, right? Like the president of baseball operations, the super duper baseball guy, or whatever the hell your team calls it. And in reality, if you had to ask me whose fault it was that this is happening, I would put it on Mike Elias before I put it on anybody else, because every single fan knows that Mike Elias did nothing to supplement this roster in the offseason. We said it on the podcast. In our rankings, we tanked the Orioles projections and our personal projections of them because we just didn't know if they had any pitching to bring into this season. Turns out, shocker, they don't. And that's not really surprising to anybody who was paying attention in the offseason, and Orioles fans were. Apparently, Mike Elias wasn't, because he fired his manager, and in my opinion, Mike Elias deserves to be fired. We've kind of been calling for it without saying it over the last few weeks. So for him to scapegoat the manager feels very grimy. Honestly, I feel really bad for Brandon Hyde because he was probably super excited. He probably felt like one of the more job secure managers in baseball coming into last season, where it's like, I've got this plethora of talent. I've got a new ownership group. I'm ready. Give me the pieces and we're going to win several World Series for this city. And now the guy's on the streets looking for a job. So, I feel for the guy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think the Mike Elias conversation is I think what we really need to focus on now here here's the way I view it. Any logical GM, president of baseball operations, chief space cowboy baseball dude, whatever you want to call him, like anyone in that chair would go, wow, damn, I have this really strong group of young hitters, core guys. Like, let me do one of two things. Let me, if I'm putting together a baseball team, try to do something that is challenging, is create a pitching infrastructure that supports developing pitchers. And if I can't do that, well, I can't just rest on my laurels. Then I have to supplement my pitching in other ways. Like, those are literally the
Hmm.
only two options. And when you neglect to do both, like Parker, the, the answers were right in front of them. They
Hmm.
didn't need to go out this offseason and sign a Max Fried, a Blake Snell. They didn't need to. And quite frankly, we
Mm-mm.
knew they weren't going to. They weren't gonna do that. But Jesus, there's no reason. And we've said this before on this show. There is no reason Garrett Crochet should be in a Red Sox uniform. There's no reason why you couldn't go pick up a Nick Pavetta, Nathan
A Walker
Avaldi,
Bueller.
like a Walker Bueller. Like, two of those guys and a Crochet, and we are not having this conversation. Now, asterisk there. The offense has not been doing what they should be
Hmm.
doing. I get that. That's part of it. But for now, let's focus on the pitching. If you had a Walker Bueller, a Nick Pavetta, and a Garrett Crochet, holy crap, everyone's keeping their job and we're not talking about this, right? We're
Yeah,
just not.
especially a team that has so much prospect capital at their disposal. I don't know if you know this, but you do not need a roster, a starting roster of 19-year-olds that are all ripping and raring to go. You can trade some of those fucking guys. Like, okay, I go back to this past offseason when we started this podcast, which we've been going now for like 30. This is like episode 34 or 35. And so that puts us over the 6 month mark. So I remember talking in the offseason with you because you were like, what's going to come to Chicago in return for Garrett Crochet? Because the worst kept
Yeah.
secret in baseball was that Crochet was on the trade block and he would not be a White Sox come this upcoming season. I remember one of the first things you said was, give me a Kobe Mayo. Give me,
Yes.
some of these Orioles prospects that are, because that was the natural progression. It was like, who has the best systems in baseball and can afford a Garrett Crochet? The Red Sox and the Orioles were right up there. I ended up going to the Red Sox, but it really shouldn't have, because as good as, all the prospects that the Red Sox gave to the White Sox
Mm,
for Garrett Crochet, the Orioles have all of that and more to offer. So the offer
yes.
should have just been countered by the Orioles. You just throw another guy on there, figure out how you have to make that happen. Because if you have Garrett Crochet locked in for like 6-7 years, like the Red Sox do now, on this Orioles team, now Tomoyuki Sagano does not need to be your ace. Now Zach Eflin does not need to be your ace moving forward. You have a stopgap. Dylan Cease is also somebody that was talked about being available to be traded for. Didn't actually end
Yeah.
up happening. If you up that, it is insane to say you can still have Jackson Holiday, Gunnar Henderson, and Heston Kjerstad all still on the Orioles and have traded for a Garrett Crochet and a Dylan Cease. You can
Yeah.
that is a world that could
Yes.
have existed. And then, like you said, you bring in a Walker
Yes.
Bueller, and this team just looks completely different. It's actually just crazy that Kyle Gibson was brought onto this roster. It's crazy that $15 million is being paid to Charlie Morton to put up a negative 1.1 WAR and a 7.68 ERA.
So you bring up an equally interesting point. So this is a three-pronged issue. And it's the offense not hitting up to their potential. We covered that. It's the pitching we know that was never reinforced, but also to me, it's also a talent. A, a what am I trying to say? It's a not a talent development, but it's a talent identification issue. Like, I don't know that this front office is good at identifying and scouting talent. And the reason why I say that is because you have these scouts that do obviously the amateur folks, you have scouts in the minors, and you have major league scouts. Okay. I don't know what the hell these major league scouts are doing, but when you miss on multiple guys, You miss on a Tyler O'Neill. You miss on a Gary Sanchez. You miss on a Charlie Morton and a Kirk Gibson. Like, it's either you blatantly missed or you were like, shit, we're out of ideas. We're just going to throw it out there and see if it sticks. Like, it was one of those, and both of those are not winning strategies. Like, they're just not.
What is Tyler O'Neill doing this season? Oh, it's a 76 OPS plus. That stinks. I mean, to their credit, he had 30 bombs last year for the Red Sox, but he was also hitting in Fenway, and then you moved him to the polar opposite, which the left field fence in Camden is like 735 feet away.
I mean, you get a good opening day out of him at least. I mean, you know.
So yeah, exactly. So my only thing that I would counter your point, and I do think it's a really good point. My only comeback to that is I don't think that's necessarily the problem. I think that the problem in this front office is the lack of a desire to part with the prospect capital that you have identified as being very good. So like you said, the amateur level scouting is on point. They know exactly what they're getting, and they've largely been good up to this point. When you have that much money in your bank account, the asking price is going to go up. This isn't Walmart. We're not spending $5 on a box of Fruity Pebbles, because if you walk into Walmart and I walk into Walmart, it's $5 for a box of Fruity Pebbles no matter who's in there. But in the baseball world, if you are feeding another team a player that you know they need, and you also know that they have the prospect capital to afford that player, the price just kind of climbs ever so slightly. One extra guy, another lottery ticket. And if you're a guy like Mike Elias, and I think this is actually kind of an advantage the Red Sox had in these negotiations, Mike Elias is the guy who brought all this young talent on board. I think he might be a little too close to the problem here, because Craig Breslow did not draft all of this prospect capital the Red Sox sent over to the White Sox. He drafted Braden Montgomery, but he didn't draft Kyle Teal. He was an inheritor of a very good system built by Chaim Bloom, so he didn't really have an attachment to all these guys. It's kind of like, oh, look at all this money that I was given. I can go spend it. Mike Elias drafted all these guys. They are his guys. His stamp is on them. So I think he was I think he was really reluctant to make the uncomfortable decision to send those guys out. Because the last thing you want to do, and I don't understand this because it wasn't the case in the 90s and early 2000s, front offices are petrified of losing trades. Yes. Nobody wants to be the loser in a trade. When back in the day, you just lost trades all the time, but it was the ones that hit that people talked about. But because we have so many numbers and stuff like that surrounding the game, it is very publicized when you lose those trades now.
That's a really good point. I think for Mike Elias, the prospect hugging, without a doubt, is an issue. What I will say is, to your point about wanting to win a trade all the time, is I think like Mike shot himself in the foot here. And the reason why I think he shot himself in the foot is, like, for me, when it comes to trades, it's a process versus results thing. Like, I would never, as a fan, like, put me in the shoes of an Orioles fan. I would rather him shoot his shot and make these trades because he's like, we're all in. We're going to fortify this team. I'm committed to getting this team where it needs to go. Are you going to hit on all those trades? No. But I would rather him go through a solid, thought out, effortful process and hope for the results than to
leak it to the media or something if you're really worried about it.
Correct. But don't go through no process because you're worried about the result. That can't happen.
Right. Yeah. I think back to like the biggest prospect trades that I think of in the Red Sox system, and it's like Anthony Rizzo was a rookie in it was in the Red Sox system, and Hanley Ramirez was drafted by the Red Sox. Hanley Ramirez was traded in the Josh Beckett deal. Josh Beckett ended up being, a staple in the Red Sox for a long time. Funny enough, Hanley Ramirez ended up coming back and doing okay. Way down the road, but like you traded Hanley Ramirez, you got a Josh Beckett, you have sent over a generational shortstop prospect in order to stack up your rotation for a World Series run. Cool. I like that. Nobody talks about that because as nice as it would have been to have Hanley Ramirez, you got a piece that is completely understandable to mortgage a shortstop for a pitcher. Same thing I think about Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo was traded to the Padres in order to bring Adrian Gonzalez on board. Gonzalez was largely successful with the Red Sox, but what did that give the Red Sox the opportunity to do? Dump the Carl Crawford deal down the road, because Adrian Gonzalez was attached to Carl Crawford in order to dump him, what was the other contract that I'm trying to remember? I forget. Anyway, we dumped Adrian Gonzalez down the road
Padres?
So no, we traded Gonzalez to the Dodgers along with Carl Crawford to dump the Carl Crawford deal. So what did Anthony Rizzo get the Red Sox is the ability to dump Carl Crawford down the road. But nobody talks about, what would have happened if Anthony Rizzo was a Red Sox. I've never heard that. And it's because you traded a lottery ticket to a team who needed time to build up their roster for a actively performing player right now. If Adrian Gonzalez had gone 0 for 400 in his Red Sox tenure, we would not be talking about it still, because he was a known quantity at the time. If you dump prospects for known quantities, it is a very explainable and redeemable trade, regardless of whether you lose it or not.
Well, that is the key point there, and I don't understand why Mike Elias is, and it's not just Mike Elias. There's other GMs that struggle with this and do the prospect hugging and are afraid to trade prospects. But folks, if you look at the landscape of the game, like you talk about, that's a great example of a good Red Sox trade. Like, if you go back 10, 15 years, you saw more MLB for MLB player or MLB level trade. You saw solid MLB player traded for another solid MLB player.
Like need for need.
That's few and far. Right. Now that's few and far between. You're only doing prospect level deals essentially now. So you better get used to it. Like, I don't know. There's no other option.
Yeah, it seems like it's always like this guy for cash, this guy for 2 prospects. Like, it's very I just don't. The Red Sox have a need right now, and I keep going back to the Red Sox. It's just what I know, guys. I'm sorry. They have a need for a first baseman right now, and at this point, it's like, okay, trade one of the plethora of other position players we have for a first baseman. Like, why is Nathaniel Lowe not on my team right now? For somebody that, like, yes, it would hurt to get rid of, but also we have somebody in the wings waiting to replace them, and it just doesn't. It sucks. It doesn't make any sense. It's not just a problem with the Orioles, but the Orioles right now are the poster child of it, because it's just that's how the season's shaping out.
You know what? I'm to be honest with you is I know you guys had a first baseman opening, and I was really excited for you because I was like, this is a chance for Parker to get his boy back. But the Brewers, they freaking signed Bobby Dahlbeck to a minor league deal. And I was like, damn it, Parker, could have been you. Could have been you.
It's so funny, too, because all the Red Sox beat reporters were like, by the way, White Sox DFA'd Bobby Dahlbeck, and Tristan Casas just went down on the same week. And I was like, oh, my God, Bobby's coming back. But it didn't happen.
Bring him home, boys.
I want Nathaniel Lowe. But Ryan Noda was just traded for cash today to the Red Sox. So.
There we go. Maybe
we can get 23 Ryan Noda back.
Hey, whatever it takes at this point. I mean, clearly Rafael Devers ain't taking first base. We've established that. So
no, Christian Campbell's on like his second week now of working out at first base in preparation to take over the position, and Marcelo Meyer's been playing second base in AAA the whole time. So,
man, oh man. So, I guess to wrap up the Orioles conversation, because this is something that we'll continue to follow. 2 questions for you, Parker. Let's start with the first one. Let's talk about the first one first. Are the Orioles, can we kind of just bury them in their grave? Like, it's Memorial Day coming up here next week.
For this season?
Is there any chance they turn this around in 25, or are they done?
No, I think they're done. For 2025, I think they're done. They're 10.5 games back. 10.5 games back of the wild card, 13.5 games back in the division. I think it's over. That's a lot. I think the last time we saw a comeback of that level was the Nationals in 2019. And to be fair, they won the World Series, but this lineup could hit at the potential that we see for them for the rest of the season. And I still just don't think it happens. Like, think about that Nationals team and what they were able to accomplish. And also think about the pitching that they had on that roster. it was much better than what's going on in Baltimore right now. I literally think that the Baltimore Orioles are going to have a problem keeping healthy pitchers on the roster because they are going to need to ride mediocre arms to the point where they explode. I think you're going to see a lot of openers. I think you're going to see a lot of bullpen games. I think that they're going to have a very tough time making it through the season. But you know what? Here's the bright side of that. Tyler O'Neill's around for 3 years. You have a bunch of prospects that you can use in the offseason to replace guys like Cedric Mullins, who expected to leave in the offseason. You have developing talent in guys like a Kobe Mayo, like a Jackson Holiday. Gunner's only going to get better, I think. Maybe Ali gets himself out of the funk. If this lineup, this is just the same conversation we have had for the last 2 years with this team. If this lineup does develop to its full potential, it is a slam dunk division winner with 3 number 3 starters in their rotation.
Correct. And I think this becomes a situation where I don't think Oriole fans need to worry about like a rebuild or anything like that. This is at minimum a retool, and it will require Mike Elias or someone just doing the damn thing, just committing, trading away some people from some folks. And you kind of said it earlier, right? You don't need all the guys on your team to be under 23. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
this doesn't have to be the Baltimore Young Bucks here. You know, you can take, dare I say it, but take a Colton Cowser, take a Jordan Westberg, trade him.
Cody Bellinger is going to be a free agent.
Right. Like, if it means you get something really good for those players and you fortify, use, again, a strength to fill a weakness, like, just be bold. Just do it. Like, enough sitting on your hands. Like, I agree with you. I think they're done this year, but it's going to be very interesting to see how bold they are at the trade deadline, and even more so, how bold they become in the winter. Because one of two things are going to happen, Parker. Mike Elias will not be the GM come the winter, which is a real possibility, or Rubenstein goes to Mike Elias and says, hey, buddy, if you're keeping this job, your ass better be moving starting in September. Like, you
know
better
who
start
I'm on the phone with today is the Pirates.
Theo Epstein. Just kidding.
No, I think I'm on the phone with the Pirates. Yep.
Tell me
more. Paul Skeens. Not for Paul Skeens, but for Jared Jones. Yep. Jared Jones is going to miss this season. Yeah. He's getting elbow surgery. He's going to miss this season. He'll be back midway through next season. Your window is not opening again. It arguably didn't open, but it's not opening again until, if not next season, the year after. Get a Jared Jones on your roster. Send Grayson Rodriguez to Driveline. Give him a fake injury and send him to Driveline this season and let him figure it out. And supplement your rotation with one more veteran guy, one more arm that you can bring in. Oh God, I'm trying to think of guys that are ready to hit free agency. Do the Chris Sale deal that the Braves did with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Bring in a guy who has a lot of upside, is maybe aging, reaching a point in his career where it's are we really going to hang on to this guy, and bring him in, somebody who knows how to win and can teach these young guys how to win. Because so it's kind of the same conversation also with this Orioles lineup that we have a lot of times in the Red Sox space. Lou Merloni brought it up in just a video he posted on Twitter. The minor league environment for minor league hitters is very selfish. If you're losing a game in the 8th inning with a runner on second, you're losing by 1 run, you're trying to hit a home run to put your team up, because a home run is what's going to get you called up. There's very little sacrifice bunting, sacrifice flies, things like that in the minor league level, because the whole goal is not necessarily to win the game. It is to inflate your baseball reference page in order to get called up. Their roster, the Orioles roster, is littered with guys who have never once played winning baseball at the major league level and have no clue how to do that. Jackson Holiday is not laying down bunts, at least not programmed into his DNA. No. Right now, he's focused on smashing the ball into the gap. And if a whole team starts to make that transition into, we're going to start playing winning baseball and not necessarily baseball card baseball, then you start seeing a culture start to change. And guys like Tyler O'Neill, Cedric Mullins, even to a certain extent, Adley Rushman and Ryan Mountcastle on that roster need to start taking leadership roles and coaching these young guys into, this is how you play winning baseball. This is how you win baseball games you were not previously going to win, by doing the little things right.
I mean, I'll tell you what, man, those Norfolk Tide games, it's like watching Slugfest fully loaded. I
It
mean, just
is.
like less punching the first baseman and Dolphins swinging bats. I mean, it literally, I don't understand. Your point is such a good one. They come up and it's an entirely different approach to the game,
Yeah.
seemingly.
Nobody, listen, you are not going to lose your job by getting sacrificed fly RBIs. You are not going to lose your job or get sent down by bunting the guy over
No,
to third base. And it's really
no,
hard. And especially like some of these guys literally do not know how to bunt, right? Like I don't know any of them personally. I haven't seen enough of their baseball to know that. But like sometimes that is an issue that exists. I just watched Cedon Rafaela not be able to bunt somebody over because he's a young guy who just came up through the Red Sox system last year, made his big league debut last year, and then like now he's in this position where he's the 9 hitter and is trying to turn the lineup over, and all he's ever tried
yeah,
to do is swing at everything and hit home runs. So this is a problem that doesn't just exist in Baltimore, and sometimes it really just takes into a veteran to get in the head of these guys, not even a hitting coach, but a veteran, to like tap them on the shoulder before they hit the on deck circle and be like, hey, your job's not to get a home run here. Your job's to move the runner
yes,
over.
100%, 100%. Well, Parker, we'll be following that. We'll be following the Orioles. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens as we get closer to the middle of the season here, and certainly at the end, we'll see what happens, what the future holds for Mike Elias in that front office.